Hello YouTube family, James Green, Short Series Shenanigans. So, loving this coffee mug, tell you what. God, I love my coffee. Anyway, so today's episode of Sunday Shenanigans is, this is a getter out, and I'm going to be using some Drill Hog product. They have left-hand drill bits, and I don't know that I've ever done a video using the left-hand drill bits. But we will, I'll show you. So I've had people ask me in the past about this, and it's been a while. I actually did a video on this, and so I figured I'd bring it to the forefront again because it's been a while. So for those of you that have a beard, and you guys know from my channel if you watched, I grow a beard at times, and shop safety, keeping garbage out of your lungs. This is actually called the Respilator. Now, I will put a link in the description box because I have a lot of people always ask me, that always come up. Primarily, this is for keeping dust out of your lungs if you're woodworking. You can use it, let's say, because it'll fit underneath a welding helmet. Let's say you don't have a fume extractor and you still, you're not in an ideal environment and you can't afford, let's say a $500, $700, $800 or $1,200, whatever they are, fume extractor. You do want to keep stuff out of your lungs. This actually pinches your nose off. It fits around. Everything is washable except the filters. It fits around your neck. And this was actually designed by a scuba diver. You actually put this on your nose. It clips your nose off. And then here's the bite piece. And all you do is you bite your teeth together and you just breathe through your teeth. This comes out, it's washable, replaceable, soap and water. It's real great. So for those of you that don't know, yes, I do woodworking. I don't do a whole lot of it on my channel now, but I do, and when I get into it, anytime you're sanding, you want to keep the sawdust out of your lungs. This is a great economical item. They are actually available through woodworkersupply.com. Their main store is actually based here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm a big fan of this. I love it. Instead of having the full, face mask respirator that can be expensive and things, I had to swing by and pick up some more filters. Okay, the filters are like 12 bucks for a pair of them. They are, let's see what size micron it says. I have to read through it, but it's a very, very good alternative. There's a little video. Like I said, I'll put a part number down, and it's for Woodworker Supply here in Albuquerque. And it comes with one set of filters. So if you say you get an extra pack of filters for less than 75 bucks, and they last a really, really long time. These are over a year old, and I've touched them and got stuff on them. It's just time to replace them. But they fit right in underneath a welding helmet when I'm doing wood turning. Because those of you who don't know, certain woods, for example, like babinga, can be toxic. Those fibers, you want to keep them out of your lungs. It's not good stuff. Plus, anytime I'm doing heavy grinding, and I was doing some cleaning on this head and creating a lot of dust. This, where you're getting out that old dried oil that are in the exhaust, ports and stuff like that. This is a must-have. So I figured I'd show that again. And again, it's called the Respilator. Okay. All right. And there's the information. All right. And I will put a link below. Let me set this over here out of the way. So yes, that is one of my favorite go-to all-time safety tools. So what we're doing here is we have a head setting up here. Excuse me. All right, it's an FE head, old 390. All right, so unknown condition of the head. I've got a pair of them. This is for a project for a fellow veteran. Matter of fact, it's 3 veterans are working on it, and we always team up. And so on this, I've already done it. I'm not going to show it, but what I did is I faced it off because there was a lot of really eroded areas around the exhaust ports. Now I know with the tool that I used, I got a weird pattern here. I'm not really concerned. You can barely feel that, and it's just because of the way the tool did it. And I used the fly cutter, which I've used this fly cutter before, but I adapted a because I have a toolbar that's an SNMG, and I had trimmed it down a lot to fit in my smaller lathe, the 0602 lathe that I had. And I thought, well, you know what? I've got a boatload, and I still use this. It'll still fit for what I need. And I've got another one just like it. But I've got a lot of these SNMG inserts. Now these that I have are rated for cast iron because on a head it's a very, very hard cast steel iron, more so than just any other casting because it's a head. So I'm like, dude, if I can just, so I trimmed this down a little bit further so it'd fit in here. I do want to do a little bit more fitting to it, but we got it on an angle where you can come in, and so that worked great. And I've had posted pictures on social media. All they saw was this side. They're like, dude, how did it get held in? So I posted some pictures on the other side showing where on Instagram how it's actually held in. And it's pretty rigid, so it's pretty neat. You know, you can pick up a used toolbar and do stuff like that. SNMG inserts are really, really common. These are like 400 series, and I've got thousands, literally thousands of them for myriads of metals and myriads of, you know, I've got 430, 431, 432, and 433, a few of them, as far as, you know, the tip diameter. So they're great. There's a great insert. They work really well. Like I said, left a weird pattern, but we're not concerned about that. You can barely feel it, but you're not going to see this. The gasket's going to cover it, and it's going to be a lot better seal. Now we are going to have to fly cut the other head as well too. Again, it's just the exhaust port, and it's not a critical dimension. No, I'm not going to be cutting down the deck on these because the deck's fine. There's no reason to. The intake side, however, on this one, I am going to show you on the other head how I achieved it. So I went to go check to make sure if it was level on the bed first, and it was rocking a little bit. And I posted some pictures on Instagram, and I'll post some more. But I'll show you how I did on the other head. But subsequently, because I have running into a problem I didn't used to have, is having the extension is getting everything up taller now. So what I ran into was I needed to raise my part up. I'll move the camera back here and show you what I've got set up as far as the setup on the back here. I'll move you guys over here, the trash can, and I'll just leave you guys set up over here so that way it's not too bad. So that's what we've got for this setup. We've got an angle plate bolted down, and I've got it up on a piece of aluminum block. Again, it's all fixed. This is just kind of under this end. It's more supported here. This is where we're going to be working. We have the getter out, and it's pulled through and tightened down to the fixture plate with one big piece of all thread. All we're going to be doing is going in here, drilling this out. Like I said, you could probably see I don't know if the camera will show it or not, but you know, it's washed out. But anyway, objective achieved. We took off about 25 thousandths to get rid of the really eroded problem. I'll show you on the other head. Let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you guys are back, and that's a good angle. So you guys know I'm a big fan of drill hog. Big fan. Let me get my whole tray of goodies here. So they actually do have left-hand drill bits, and I've got some other types of drill bits as well too. I'm a big fan of these. Now, depending on what you have to remove and get out, a myriad of things can work. You just have to use your own judgment. So, and I'll cover the number up, but it does come. These have a lifetime warranty. If you tear one up, break one, you can email them, drillhog@gmail.com, and they'll answer you, and they'll replace it free of charge. There are 15 different size bits. They go from 1/16 to 1/2 inch, and in a hoop box. Really, really nice. And so what we're going to do, what I usually do, let me get the camera set here. So this is a 3/8 5/16, or correction, I'm sorry, 3/8 16 hole. Now the tap size, if we were going to tap, would be a 5/16 bit. Now what I like to do is I like to go smaller than that. So if you're curious, you always have your drill chart. So okay, we are ready to I'm out of the inserts themselves. I'm going to go pick some up later today when the parts store opens, because it's like 3 in the morning right here, believe it or not. So I'm out of the inserts, but if we mess this, if this is, you know, the threads are boogered up, which they probably are, not a big deal. We're going to drill it and tap it. On these heads, typically The problem is, and I've explained this before, and I talked about this on live session the other night, and I really want to, I talk about the old millwright that worked for my dad named David House. He taught me a valuable lesson when I was a kid about tap it before you torque it. And that has always stuck in my head. Anytime you're getting ready to put a fastener in, let's say, for example, and our application was, where I learned the lesson was equipment, heavy equipment. My dad was a general contractor, so we worked and repaired and built everything. We were working on a hydraulic pump, and I forget, I think it was if I remember right, it was an old Michigan loader, if I remember right. And we were changing out a big, yeah, it was an old 580 rubber tire dozer. There we go. Those of you that know what I'm talking about, those things were beasts. Anyway, we had just got through pulling out the bolts on the pump, and I was helping. I was about 8 years old, and I was just fascinated, you know, a little kid around big equipment. And so he started teaching me. I started learning, you know, hey, yeah, I want to know more. Even though we pulled the bolts out, he's like, David said, you need to tap it before you torque it. And I was like, what? And so I was fortunate enough to, he explained to me, especially on heavy equipment, because there's dirt and grease and oil and whatever. And he's like, you need to run a tap through that hole. Even though we pulled them bolts out, it was open on the back side. He said you could have pulled that bolt through, which these here on these FE heads, they're through bolts. So the bolt sticking through the other side, on an exhaust manifold, you're going to get mud, grease, snow, salt, road grime. You got to pull it back through. Typically what happens is, and this is how he explained it to me, all right? So the bolt is sticking through, okay, it's an open side. What happens is, and this is why exhaust bolts usually break. Number one, lots of hot and cold cycles, okay? What happens is, you have the peak of the thread on the bolt, okay? They deteriorate and corrode. So now you have a rounded, we'll say this is like the thread peak. So you have a new bolt after a while, you know. These heads were built in 1968. I know the part number, I pulled it up and looked at them. It's C8AEH. So you guys are 4 guys, you know what I'm talking about. These are 68 model heads. Took them apart. It had the original valve guide seals. It said FOMOCO. Yeah. Anyway, so you have a good thread peak, the way David explained it to me. So over time, the thread will deteriorate. So when you go to pull the bolt out, when it comes out, because you try to want to clean the threads and garbage and stuff. If you can't, when you pull it out, you have a tendency to pull garbage through, rust, or let's say there's not a lot of stuff on it, but you've power washed or cleaned it off. That thread peak has deteriorated. So when you pull it through, it not being crisp thread, it's not going to clean out the thread roots of the area where or it'll pull through and tear up and break off, which is what happened here. They do it. They just, you know, the guy that took this apart, he's a very competent mechanic. Anybody that's ever worked on an exhaust manifold knows exhaust bolts break. There's nothing you can do. It's stuck in there, not a big deal. But David always said, tap it before you torque it. And I did this on live social media the other night on Facebook Live. And I was going through, anytime you go to rebuild or repair, let's say you just pulled, if the piece of equipment's dirty, and you want to make sure when you go back together, because there's garbage in there, you know, you clean out the thread roots in the female portion. So when you put a new fastener back in, or that same fastener, let's say it was good and not torn up, especially in motors, in the heads, for example, I was pointing out, okay, you have where the rail mounts into that holds the rockers. Now, those bolt holes in there, oil is going to seep down in through there and grime and stuff, and it's just going to naturally get down below typically where the thread of the bolt is. Plus, there's just garbage in there. Clean it out, blow it out, run a tap in, you know, carb cleaner, denatured alcohol, blow it out, make sure you use a rag, protect your eyes, face shield, all that good stuff. get it clean. Even if you just pull, well, I just pulled a bolt out. Well, there's grime and stuff in those threads. Get them clean. So, and the way David explained it to me was so that when your fastener and the item you're putting it into mate together, there's no grime in between there, because how he explained it, and I always remember this, he said, this is the grime, here's your fastener, you know, and here's the thread of, let's say, the nut, and here's the thread of the bolt, and you have grime in there. So it comes up and it gets in between those, and then you torque it in, and it might, you know, you might go through the torque pattern and have it fine. And then especially in a motor, because a motor is, it's hot and cold, it's violent. Pistons in a internal combustion engine, it's a very violent, constantly environment changing, hot and cold, vibrating, shaking, you know, as far as, because those pistons are going up, down thousands of times a minute, you know, revolutions per minute. So let's say, for instance, you have a head bolt and you have, okay, the fastener, you know, or you have the head, the block, and you have grime, then you have the bolt that comes up in there that you didn't tap the hole out or clean it out, and then, okay, you've tightened everything down, and then over periods of it getting hot and cold and hot and cold and vibrating, that grime works out, and now you have lost your torque. You got a false reading. So even if you're, so I've always adapted that, and he explained it, and that little saying always stuck, tap it before you torque it, really stuck with me. That's one of them lessons. You know, you're rebuilding something for a friend, even though you took the bolts out, run them through, because there's grit, there's grime. Even if you're going to put a, you know, you're going to work on something on the mill, and you're going to replace something, and you know what, run a tap through there just to make sure you get the grime out, especially if it was an open hole on the other end, or depending on if it was, you know, up in the belt area where it sat down and grime can get in oil, and you go to put it in there, and I know other people have talked about this, bottoming the bolt out. If there's a bunch of grit and grime you don't know about in there, and then you go to bottom it out because there was garbage in there you didn't know about, or when you went to put the new one in, the new bolt pulled all the garbage out of the threads and shoved it to the bottom of the hole, then you bottom a bolt out and you can't see. So clean your holes out, tap it before you torque it. That was a lesson I was talking about the other night on live media, Facebook, and I really wanted to make sure you guys, I wanted to pass that along, because that was a lesson I learned at a very early age. Because he explained, he's like, well, we're fixing to put this pump up on there, and your old man, and people always get on me, your old man. It's a term of endearment. My dad calls me boy. So, Dad, he said, your father paid $10,000 for this pump, and we go to put these bolts on here if they don't fasten and torque it right. He said, could you afford $10,000? Now, as an 8-year-old kid, I'm going, man, that's more money than I ever make in a lifetime. But it's a valuable lesson. He had a valued point, and I started learning of run a tap through, and sure enough, you know, we got the right tap. I started learning about sizes and everything, and we ran taps through and cleaned out and pulled paint. And he showed me to illustrate. He took the bolt, he cleaned it off, and he said, now try to put that bolt in there. And we got in, and it was kind of crunchy and grunchy. Well, first you take an air hose, blow it out. We still ran a tap through, and you got paint chips and rust and grime out, blow it out again, and the bolt went in really easy. You know, you didn't want things to come loose. And that's when I started learning about, you know, tap it before you torque it, you know, using thread locker and, you know, all that good stuff. So anyway, I wanted to tell you guys about that, because I figured that was a good, neat, you know, aha moment as a kid that really stuck with me and all these years later. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do a little getter out here and I'll show you guys my left-handed drill hog bits, and we'll get started. Okay, I'll set you guys right there, make sure camera's good to go. I'll leave you back at a wide angle. So we've kind of got everything generally lined up here. So what I like to do is I always pull out my drill chart. So we know these are 3/8, 16, and if you go here, you know the actual tap size is a 5/16. So I want to make sure I go smaller than that, because we want to get centered up. So if we do have to drill all this way through, we know we're going to booger the threads. Chances are they're probably already bad, we don't know, but you know, you approach everything differently. So let's go ahead and we're going to start off with a regular right-handed bit here, and we're going to find center. And the reason I fly cut this first is so I could actually cheat a little bit and get a, try to get the camera zoomed in here if it'll not wash stuff out. I wanted to cheat a little bit and show you guys. There we go. That's a good angle. And the reason I fly cut it first, so I could create a flat spot to make it easier. So I'll back up just a little bit, and I know the camera's kind of washing on it, or the light. Alright, we'll leave you right about there. We're going to come down here, we're going to find center exactly, and so we're actually going to go, we're going to use a 1/4 inch bit. I'm going to go 2 sizes below, just to make sure we're good. And that'll be the one we use. We're going to come down here and figure out, and a lot of this is just going to be eyeballed. No, we need to tighten that in first, that would help. Get busy talking for the camera and forget to tighten our stuff in. Alright, so we're just going to eyeball this to center. I like to do front to back first, so pardon my head if I get in the way. Everything out of the way here. And then I'm going to come over here and just look at it side to side. There we go. Alright, that's good enough. We're going to lock the table down. Good to go. Let's go ahead and fire up our phase converter here. I love the remote. Everyone always asks about it, so I figured let me show you guys real quick. So, if you get a phase converter from American Rotary, and they're a channel sponsor of mine, they're awesome. So, I actually put this rail up here to actually hang this other light that you guys see in the back up here. So I actually got the wired remote, so I don't have to walk over to my ADX series, and I love it. So that is handy. They also have a wireless type setup. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start it up. And let me get my oil here. We have to slow our lathe down a lot, I know that. Or the, let me go ahead and do that now. Change the belt size here. There we go. Right there. Now we're down at 660. With a little brush. Make sure we're on center. So, out of the way, and we're going to come up here, and even on this entire set of this these drill hog bits, they have 3 flats on them, so you can actually use them in a keyless chuck if you want, and they work really well for that. So I'm going to slow way down. We're going to actually go in back gear for this. I'm going to go slow to start so that we, if I have to and it starts to pull it out, I can lift it up. And these are actually the M7 left-hand bits. And I'm just putting real light pressure. I mean very, very, very light. You guys can see. So that way if it starts to pull out, I mean I'm literally just pressing like this. So that way if I see it start to pull out, I can immediately go like that. And the other reason I like it is I can turn it off. So I stop and you can check and we can see, and I'll zoom you guys in here, that we're actually on center. Okay. With the bit. It's doing a wonderful job. Okay. We're right on center. We're good to go. We're going to keep going down with it. We're just going to keep going through. Again, light pressure. I highly suspected it wasn't going to just twist out, because it was just rusted, busted, nasty. Yeah, camera's fuzzing out there. It wants to focus on something else. This light pressure. These bits are great. You don't have to, some people think you gotta turn a bit 1,000,000 miles an hour. You know, you don't. We're running 80 RPM. And it pulled right through. That's another reason I like having that remote shut off. I can, you know, you could run it all the time. It's not loud, but I want to make sure, because I know my camera picks up a lot of noise. So we're right on center. We know we're going to have to go through here and do the tapping and all that other good stuff. But the main thing I wanted to get by to you guys today was show you a lot of stuff, what we got going on. And I am going to show this, so there is going to be another video to this. It'll be Sunday Shenanigans Part 2. I will show you after I get done doing this how a very simple, again, this is another way to find the high spot on these old heads or something, because sometimes, you know, you take old heads apart or motor and you throw a straight edge on it, which I threw a straight edge on the intake side and it showed good. But when I went to put it on my mill table and I did the rock test, there was a little spot in the middle. And there's a little trick I want to show you guys that I was showed that anybody can do. It's real simple. It involves Dicom and your mill table or a flat surface that you know is flat. So there you go. Neat little trick. We're going to continue on the getter out. You know, we're going to just clean all the valves up. Everything's good. The seats and guides are good in both these heads. We're going to clean everything up, put new seals, put them back together. Nothing fancy as far as, you know, porting and polishing. This is just to get his pickup back together. It's an around town kind of a ranch pickup, farm pickup, you know, that he uses. And so there you go. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, hit me up on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at EagleDustOff37, and I post videos and stuff up on Twitter. If you guys have any questions, EagleDustOff37@gmail.com. I know Stan talked about the summer bash coming up, so I know that All Industrial Tool Supply is going to be there. They're my channel sponsor. They have all these products available that I use. They do have some left-hand bits. They don't sell drill hog stuff, but they do have left-hand bits. They've got, you call them and ask them. Description in the bottom in the box. Call and talk to Jim Henry or Jeff Perry. They're phenomenal. Big Gator Tools, they've already sent stuff to the bash, I know. Empire Abrasives, shout out to Empire Abrasives. American Rotary is going to be there, you guys. So let's show American Rotary the love that they deserve, because they are such an awesome group of guys and gals. So American Rotary is going to be there. All roads lead to Bar Z. It's already out there. Start getting your plans together. If you have any questions, hit up Stan Zukowski in reference to the bash. I know he's going to put some videos out about what's going on. So there you go. Like I always say at the end of every video, and I truly do mean it, take care of yourself and take care of your family, because remember, at the end of the day, you and your family is all you got. Till next time, get out in the shop, grab you a cup of coffee, and remember, size matters. Tap it before you torque it. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.